Thanks, we're good. Welcome, everybody, to the August 5th meeting of the Charter Revision Commission. We'll call the meeting to order at 6:03. This will be our final meeting to discuss the recommendations made by the Common Council prior to approving and sending to Attorney Mednick to mark up the final document, which we will then vote to approve by Zoom on August 12th. I'm just going to confirm that date with the city clerk's office, but I believe that's what we settled on. So for a roll call in person, we have Jim Clark, Carl Dickens, Tyler Fairbairn, Rick McQuaid, and John Levin. And I believe we have the balance of the commission online. I see Doug Hempstead, Ed Camacho, Tanya Rhodes Small, and Joe Bennett. So we'll now go to the public participation portion. We'll check and see if we have anybody signed up. Do we have anybody signed up in person? Yeah. Yeah, please.
Lisa Brin.
Welcome, Lisa. Come on up.
Hi guys, I can see you with my glasses, but now I have to take them off in order to read. Lisa Britton, Sharp Park, Independent Party Town Chair. Indulge me for a who's that? Sorry. Indulge me for a moment, if you will. I'm reading a book about George Washington and the Constitution. After the war, in addition to debt, there were a host of competing interests: small states versus big states, federalists versus anti-federalists, who, contingent upon ratifying the Constitution, wanted more amendments and a Bill of Rights. Those were the opposition's ideas. The founding fathers knew if democracy was to survive, compromise was needed and opposing parties needed a fair say and seat at the table. It drove better outcomes. Fast forward to Norwalk's charter. Since 2016, Norwalk have asked for fairer representation for the 45% who have no say in Norwalk policy, save Heather Dunn and 3 minutes at the podium. This committee started with high hopes, benchmarking other towns last summer. Things began to unravel when Mr. Camacho was allowed to denounce non-Democrats and assert that there was no such thing as an independent. He blurred the lines in this committee over what constitutes democracy versus election rules. Let me clarify. Democracy is when power is vested with all people and a right to participate in decision-making. Election rules, on the other hand, are varied and can include proportional representation, first past the post, minority party representation, or ranked choice voting. Most democracies in the world use proportional representation. The US is seeing the ugly consequences of first past the post. And even with that, career politicians from red and blue states continue to rewrite election rules in their favor or gerrymander districts to shore up power. Tyler put forward a great recommendation that would have: 1, moved representation closer to the neighborhoods; 2, implemented real minority party representation; and 3, created a mayoral check and balance. It maintained the size of the council with 3 seats in each of the 5 districts with a maximum of 2 from one party, and eliminated the at-large seats, who basically run with the mayor. It was shot down as undemocratic. So where are we now? Best I can figure, after more than a year, we have 21 proposals from the council in the dog days of August. Some are good, like the transparent budgeting process. Some not so good, like growing the council. None of the benchmark towns said bigger was better. 4-year terms for everyone, more pay, no real check on the mayor's office, and a bare bones proposal for minority representation, despite Jalen's best efforts. It's demoralizing and undemocratic to see one party's absolute power reinforced with self-interest charter policy, rewriting election rules to maintain power.
30 seconds remaining.
To 45% of the electorate. It's certainly not what the founding fathers had in mind when a hell of a lot more was at stake than a city charter. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. We'll now go to, is anybody else on the in person? So we have one hand up online, Diane Lorcello.
Good evening. I hope you can hear me. I'm in a restaurant huddling under a table. Can you hear me?
We can, Diane.
Okay, terrific.
Thank you. Too much information.
What are you having?
I'm having eggplant parmesan at Diamond Pizza on Main Street. Delicious.
All right.
Anyway, I want to take back my time, I hope. Anyway, for the record, my name is Diane Lauricella, 21 Little Fox Lane. Over time, I again appreciate that we tried to tackle this big monster called the charter. And I think there have been many proposals put forth that I think have great merit. And if the public, the voting public, has the education from all of you and others to explain several of these proposals, I do believe they will pass. I ask again that whatever questions the council eventually votes on and you as a commission forwards back to the council, that the questions are written clearly and not in ways that require someone to twist into a pretzel to understand. I also again suggest for the more controversial questions that they have their own particular question separately from the good administrative changes that have been proposed. Lastly, I believe that I think it would be in other towns under council compensation, you could put forth a list of the minimal services to the residents that a council person needs to put forth in order to receive compensation, such as having a minimal of 2 community meetings per quarter or per year, and that they do a newsletter online. There are ways that there could be justification, and I do believe that there needs to be more council compensation. I do not think the model of having people be reimbursed is going to work. I think it's ridiculous that people get $50 a month. The thing is, you all have to make the case as to how you will earn the money. Lastly, I just wanted to say on the number of council members, I do not agree with Ms. Britton or anyone that feels on both sides, all sides of the aisle, that 15 is the sweet spot. It is not. I have said over and over again, to expand a council in a city of 95,000 and growing, you need to increase the number of people in the districts so that there is a chance you can do constituent service. Now, Jalen had proposed adding 2 more seats. At the very least, we should do so. I have said before that if all parties,
30 seconds remaining.
Present candidates that present reasons why they should be elected in a more holistic and articulate way, there's a greater chance that they will be elected. So I ask again that you consider at the very least Jalen Seed's proposal of adding 2 minority party seats, but make it so that we have the 17 total. I wish we had 20,
3
quite
minutes.
frankly. Thank you very much. We need more due diligence. And a lot of you are fooling yourselves thinking that you are doing due diligence on the council. You're not doing enough of it, and it shows at times. Thank you very much and good luck.
Thank you, Diane. Enjoy your eggplant farm, and we'll check in with you soon. Is there anyone else who would like to take part in the public participation portion this evening? Anybody else online? We'll do last call for Zoom. Please raise your Zoom hand if you'd like to. We have one more in person here.
Hello, my name is Sherry McCready Brown. I am the Chair of the Board of Education, and I also serve as the Finance Committee Chair. Good evening, members of the Charter Review Commission. Thank you for the opportunity to speak briefly this evening. I'm here on behalf of the Board of Education Finance Committee to respectfully address one potential provision under consideration, specifically the idea of placing a cap on the Board of Education's annual budget request prior to its formal submission to the city. Let me begin by stating that we fully respect the city's authority in making final funding decisions, and we value the collaborative budgeting process that exists between the Board of Education and the city. However, we want to be proactive in offering our perspective in case this provision is being considered. Under Connecticut General Statute 10-222, the Board of Education is legally required to independently prepare and submit an itemized estimate of the cost of maintaining the public schools for the coming year. This responsibility belongs solely to the board and represents an essential part of our governance role. A provision that caps the BOE's request before we've had the opportunity to assess and submit our estimate would unfortunately conflict with state law. It would also intrude upon our ability to advocate for the needs of Norwalk students in a comprehensive and transparent way. Additionally, court decisions, including the Stanford versus Board of Education Finance case, have affirmed that boards of education and municipalities have separate and independent roles in the budget process. The city's role is to make appropriations, not to limit the BOE's ability to articulate what we believe is necessary to operate our schools effectively. For that reason, we respectfully request that if such a provision is under consideration, the commission reconsider its inclusion. Finally, we ask that the legal memorandum we've shared be included in the official record of tonight's meeting to support an informed and collaborative discussion going forward.
30
Thank you
seconds
for your
remaining.
time and service to the city.
Thank you, Chair. Do you want to address this? Okay. Okay, so that is it for public comment, public participation. We will now get into the agenda. So where we left off after our last meeting was with item 10. This is item 10 of the 21 that had been sent to us by the Common Council. This was the item that dealt with adding a member of the Common Council to the Board of Estimate. I think there were two options there, whether it was voting or non-voting. I would like to hear from some of our council members. I know that this was, I believe that this was not a consent item, which means there was presumably some discussion on the council. So I was curious to hear more there. Do we have a motion to consider item 10, which is the Common Council member to be appointed to the BET?
I'll make that motion.
Okay. So I think there had been, and you know, members of the commission, please feel free to chime in. I personally support having a member of the Common Council on the BET. I think the discussion was then around whether or not they should have voting rights. So I would like to ask our council members who joined us this evening whether their thoughts were in this not being a consent item. There was clearly some division as to whether members of the council thought that person should have a vote or not. And perhaps there were some people who didn't think that somebody on the council should have been appointed to the BET at all. So if any of you would like to address that, I'd be very interested to hear your thoughts on that.
Sure. So this was near unanimous. I believe the overall concept got a 12-2 vote. So I think the council in general is strongly in support of this idea. Again, as we've talked about before, a lot of this is about trying to improve the budget process, increase the council's understanding and authority, increase the sort of back and forth of conversation. The question of whether it should be a non-voting or voting member, we did not take a vote on it, so I can't give you an exact count. There was discussion both ways. I think that for folks who felt like it should be a non-voting member, there was certainly a sense that it allowed the existing members to continue to serve. But for those who felt like it should be a voting member, there was a sense that the amount of time required for this position would be such that it made sense for the person to have a vote. I would also say that excuse me, got something in my throat. I apologize, the pollen has been driving me nuts. That there is a logic to having the balance of power on the BET being the mayor, a council member, and one person from each of the 5 voting districts, which would certainly be a neat way of making sure that we had a sort of variety of representation. But I'll let other folks, speak to their position on this, and I'm going to go out and cough for a second. Back.
Thank you, Nora. I agree with Nora's recap of the history of this, namely that a pretty substantial majority of the council voted in. And just to remind you, the item that was voted on, the language of that said requiring a member of the Common Council be appointed to serve either as an additional non-voting member or a seventh voting member. By my understanding from the discussion done in public, of members, I think more people were generally in support of a non-voting member versus a voting member. We did not specifically take a vote on both of those items, but if you heard the tenor of the discussion, there were council members who made public comment saying that they would feel differently about there being a voting member versus a non-voting member. I think there were also probably a couple members who were against the idea in general. I don't remember because I didn't take notes on exactly the iterations of each position. But I know that I think the most popular of the positions was a non-voting member on the Board of Estimate and Taxation for the reasons I think that Nora said, and also so that the Common Council does have a form of representation on the Board of Estimate and Taxation.
Josh, I have a question.
Yeah.
The voting member, I understand, self-explanatory, I would think. What's the purpose of a non-voting?
So if you like, I'm sure.
I agree with that too. I think that if it was a voting member, it would give one person on the council more weight in their votes, given that we in committee then vote on items that come to us that are already in the budget. I do think it's really helpful to have someone at those BET meetings. I don't know who that's going to be, not me. But I think it's really helpful because we as a group often talk about where we want to see the city going overall. And I think it's really important for the BET in real time to have that communicated to them. It's like, this is what we're thinking. This is what we talk about in caucus. This is what we talk about with our constituents. I think having that voice available to the BET as they're making decisions between line items, I think is really important and something that's missing. But I do think that actually having an actual vote gives them more power or weight that they probably shouldn't have over the BET members specifically. So that's my opinion.
Thank you. I also see our colleague, Councilmember Greg Burnett, has his hand up on Zoom. I'd like if he wants to share some thoughts.
Greg, the floor is yours.
Greg, we're having trouble hearing you.
Speak loud.
Doesn't seem to be muted.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. Well, first off, I'll start my comments by saying I was not in support of this particular action. I take the approach that adding a member of the council to the BET makes an assumption that there's something broken or something wrong with our current process. I totally agree that more dialogue can take place with the BET, but to add someone from the council to the BET, and you've heard the word used quite often, to have a balance of power, I see this primarily as some type of power move. But as far as, does it improve the budget process? Does it provide more transparency? We can achieve that without adding someone to the BET. We can have more meetings with the BET. We can have more open dialogue with the BET. But by adding someone through charter to the BET, the only item that I see that's being accomplished here is trying to be almost a watchdog from the council of the BET's actions. And I'm not in support of that.
May I ask how many meetings council has with the BET now per annum?
Greg would be the one to answer that question, since usually there's a meeting that happens at least once, if not more, Greg, with the Council Finance Committee and the Board of Estimate and Taxation. But Greg will have a much more accurate answer than I will.
Currently, we do not have a formal, we have several meetings with the Board of Education, focus primarily on the budget between the finance committees of the Board of Education and the Common Council. We do not currently have a formal meeting with the BET, but that was one of the suggestions that I brought forward to increase dialogue, understanding, and transparency, to add in the budget process a standing meeting of the Common Council and the BET. However, there's nothing that precludes the Finance Committee from having more meetings with the BET as well.
Just to supplement and just to refer what Councilmember Burnett was talking about, there is item 17, which does recommend amending the current language to require Board of Estimate hearings at a joint meeting with the Common Council. I just want to step back, and I want to make sure when I'm speaking, just considering my position as majority leader, that I'm conveying what the majority of the council voted for. I think that's the fairest way, or at least I'm speaking for myself and my capacity to communicate this. It seems, if you're asking what the majority of the Common Council thought, that a non-voting member, as in someone who is not, those concerns about power balance, I think, are significantly mollified if that member of the Common Council is not a voting member. And that's why I think a majority of people on the Common Council supported that particular option. I obviously know that there are colleagues who disagree with that. I also, want to take into account that obviously there's a variety of opinions, but I do think it's fair to convey, just based on discussion and the nature of our vote. And there were a number of people, including myself, who had said that that was an important distinction and why I supported that item. But Nora wanted to.
Okay, then I want to recognize Doug after Nora.
Oh, sure. And I would just say, I just want to be clear, because we did not take a vote on that. I'm not actually sure that that was a majority. I think that I may have had a majority vote for a voting member had we taken the vote. So,
I acknowledge that we did not take a vote.
right. So I just want to be clear that I think the council was very divided on that point. And again, I think to Mr. Burnett's point, I think 2 points that were clear from the council, again, from the majority perspective, is that one, we don't think the budget process is working. And certainly, in such a way that it doesn't need changes. And two, yes, we are very interested in having more balance between the mayor and the council writ large. As Mr. Mendick has pointed out several times in this process, there are two things that the state requires a city to have: a mayor and a legislative body. And it is Norwalk's charter, as it currently stands, really minimizes the authority of the legislative body in a way that we think has been detrimental to the balance of power, the ability, again, for there to be checks and balances. I know that's something that a number of charter members have spoken favorably of, and I will reiterate, I think this is a way, again, while maintaining the BET sort of process as a whole, to increase the sort of balance of power, make sure that there are more checks and balances, more communication. And I do think it would be a really positive addition to this process to allow both sides to better understand what's happening and see what evolves for the future.
Can I ask a question? And is it a fair statement to make that if the BET makes a move that's unpopular with the residents, who gets the letters or emails?
Oh, the council.
That's what I thought.
Yep.
Okay, I'm gonna recognize Doug.
Yeah.
Doug, there you go.
Yeah, I got it. Just a question. So I'm trying to understand what prohibits, with my experiences on the council, from the council self naming somebody from either the finance chair, or whatever, to attend all the Board of Estimate and Taxation meetings. There's nothing there that prohibits that. So if you're asking for a non-voting member, anybody from the council could go to all their BET meetings. And usually there's always been a courtesy that if a member of the legislative body or the mayor went to the meeting, they get to speak. So I'm trying to understand why something like this would need to be incorporated into a charter versus you have the ability to do that now. Does anybody go to all the BET meetings? Okay.
I think to that point, it's something that it's a lot of stuff that we can do, but it just hasn't been done. And I think the reason to put it in the charter is that this is something to structurally put in the charter, that this is something that needs to be done going forward. So right now we can do it and we could do a lot of things, but we're not doing them. So I think it's important to put this structural provision into our charter to make sure that we're doing this. A lot of times we talk about the one-way street of the council speaking to the BETs to help them make decisions, but I also think that there's another way, it's a two-way street. The BET, that member that's going to be on the BET, or hopefully will be on the BET, is going to come back to the council, and the council is going to be better informed of why the BET is making those decisions. Because the BET does a lot of great work, a lot of meetings, going through every department, every line item, and that person who's sitting through those meetings are going to be able to come back to the council and say, hey, I understand that Mrs. Jones on Main Street is concerned about this, but we have all of these things, and this is going to put us in a better financial situation. And luckily, we currently have like members on the council that served on the BET, and they do have that tribal knowledge that could come back to the council. But that's something that's not always going to happen. But having this structurally in our charter is something that we're going to be mandated to do, and that person is going to have to do it. So I think there's a lot of things that we could do, but I think it's important for us to put it structurally there so that it has to be done for years to come.
Thank you, Jay. Rick and then Tanya.
A follow-up question. So how is that a person? How is, if it in the chart, shows not clear.
So Doug, you got cut off. Could you say that one more time? It was a little choppy.
I'm sorry. It says underneath that there'll be a non-voting member, so they're basically sitting there and asking questions, I guess, and taking it in. There's no, how does this person get appointed?
Well, I mean, it's something we would have to discuss. If this is something that's approved,
That's why I'm trying to bring it up.
right? I mean, we
One of
would
those
have to-
items.
Steve would have to write that up. I mean, presumably it would be the council would select the person.
I was going to recommend the way it's done in a lot of other communities is the president makes the appointment subject to a majority vote by the council.
Hi, this is Ed Camacho. I got knocked off the meeting for a while. I apologize for just jumping in right now, but I just wanted to let you know that I'm back, and I do have a statement and a question.
Thank you, Ed. we're gonna hear from Heather and then Rick and Tanya. Yeah.
One of the reasons to have it there is because like me, I'm on every single committee.
Mm.
And there are so many meetings like BET that I would love to go to and weigh in on, but they conflict with other committee meetings. And if it was a meeting that we had to go to, the city would not schedule them, those BET meetings at the same time as a land use. That's productive.
Okay, welcome to being a standalone.
Yeah, I'm in there.
Rick,
I'd let Tanya speak first and then I'll go second.
Tanya?
Rick, you're such a gentleman.
It's an election year.
So I'm still a bit confused. If the member from the Common Council would be on the BET and a non-voting member, which would have the same, I guess, status or responsibility that you can do now, but you're choosing not to, then why wouldn't you want that person to be a voting member? Because if you have the ability to go to the meetings now and you don't, then why would you want that person, as Heather said, that she's on all these other committees? So why wouldn't you want that person to be a voting member?
And that's why I am of the opinion, and why a number of other people on the council are of the opinion that it should be a voting member. Because again, if you're going to sit through all those meetings, if you're going to be there to give your perspective, at a certain point, it is nice to move from persuasion to actually having a vote. And I do think that I understand concerns about the person appointed by the council having to represent the council as a whole and not just their own opinions. But again, we do that all the time now. There are council appointments who sit on the WPCA. There are council appointments who sit on a number of bodies, and they are expected to represent the body. And so I don't think it's at all an unusual or unreasonable thing to expect to then have a voting member who, again, is representing the council's position on various issues. So I hear you, and I think that that is a fair and valid concern. I also suspect that for someone sitting on the BET for a long period of time and not being able to vote while actively participating would probably end up being rather frustrating. So I think there's a lot of reasons to strongly consider it being a voting position, not just a non-voting one.
Tanya, do you have anything else?
No, that was it. That would be the only thing I would vote for if they were a voting member. I don't see the point of them being a part of the BET. Because as they stated earlier, that they can attend the meetings now without it being in the charter. So I don't see the point of putting it in the charter if it's something that you can do now and they're choosing not to.
I have a follow-up question from Tanya's.
Sure.
Is there any harm that would come from the council selecting one of its members to serve as a voting member of the BET? I'm really asking, what's the downside here?
I think there were arguments raised about imbalance of power. I think there were arguments raised about, well, I mean, actually, frankly, that's the primary one. It's really the only one I think that was addressed throughout. our
Where's
sessions.
the imbalance of power? I'm sorry, I don't follow.
You have a council member who is sitting on the BET, so you're sitting on two of the most powerful boards in the city. And of course, the council, while we trust, we would trust whomever is appointed to be on the BET, could vote any number which way on any number of line items. They may, obviously we hope to trust them, but it would create a situation where there's one council
Well,
member. who
wouldn't they
has-
caucus with the other council members before they voted one way or the other?
That's the best case scenario, yeah, but that may not always, that opportunity may not always present itself. And so you may not get a meeting every time. I mean, again, I want to make sure I'm not speaking outside the scope of the conversations we had on the floor. I want to be fair to my colleagues and not just like start speculating and extemporizing on my own. There were arguments, there were concerns. That was really sort of the main concern about a voting member versus a non-voting member. But other than that, I don't really think there were many arguments raised other than that.
And Mr. Bendick spoke to the fact that this is done in other places.
Right.
May I,
Well, it has been.
Yeah, I
Most other larger cities do not have boards of finance any longer. When I was in Alderman Haven, and I chaired the finance committee, being on the board of finance, which was a pretty powerful group, would not have been something I could do. We always had somebody else from the finance committee selected by the body or appointed by the president with approval of the body to serve. And one of the other things you could do is longevity is not necessarily a virtue. You could have it a one-year appointment. You could be appointed to serve on the Board of Estimate for a year, and somebody else gets to serve on it or something like that. So that if somebody does go astray, they could go astray in one budget process, not multiple budget processes. So there's different ways to address the issue.
So
may I, I'm not sure where I am in the queue, but
And you're up.
oh, okay, good. All right. So I just can't see because I'm in my car, so I can't see that well. Okay, so let me begin by saying that Norwalk has had a AAA rating for a very long time now, and this may fit in the category if it ain't broke, don't fix it. There was one year, I remember the one year I sat on the Common Council, the budget passed by a vote of 8-7. And there were very strong feelings on both sides of that vote. And most of us, the exception of one person, were Democrats. So, which gets to the other point about minority party representation. But since we're talking about this at the moment, in that situation, you would have to presumably pick a Common Council member at the beginning of the year, or I'm not sure if you would pick that person after the vote has been cast, in which case then would you pick a member that voted in the majority? If there were strong feelings on both sides, as there were in that vote, can you really expect a voting member of the Common Council on the BET to vote against the interests of his or her constituents, which presumably is why they voted the way they voted in the first place? To have a non-voting member of the BET, of the Common Council on the BET, I suppose would be fine, except that in the years I've served on the BET, I cannot remember a time that a member of the Common Council appeared as an observer or to ask a question or to participate in some way in any of the meetings, particularly the meetings at the beginning of the year that had to do with the budget. So I don't really, and the notion that not having a member of the Common Council on the BET has somehow been a problem, or has created a problem, or has been harmful in some way, I don't really understand in what way. Because as I said at the beginning, Norwalk has a AAA rating. Now that could very well be because we're close to the city of New York, but it could be because we have a system of checks and balances that is the BET and the Common Council acting in two separate roles with respect to the budget. So those are my points. I just don't see the point in having someone to be there without a vote because they can be there anyway, and they never have, as far as I can recall. And then having a vote, in some ways, you're asking for a member of the Common Council to vote against the interests of his or her constituents, which is not likely to happen, or at least you can't guarantee that that person would. And it's basically giving a member of the Common Council 2 votes in the budget process, which under the circumstances is really very difficult to justify. So those are my comments.
Okay, thank you. Rick, did you have a
Yeah,
final-
just I'm not really in favor of the council having a person there, but I can live with it. I just can't see it as a voting member because, that person really will get 2 bites at the apple. As it's coming by. And what could happen is, after you get your 1 bite of the apple, you're gonna start getting all those phone calls and all those emails and everything. And, by the time you get back to your council group that's expecting you to work with them and have ideas to share with them, things could change. So I think as much as I don't want to see anybody added to it, I can live with it to move other things along here. But as a voting member, I just can't see a person getting 2 bites of the apple. I think it's too important for the council to make their decisions and for the Board of Estimates to make their decisions. My only other thing that I am concerned is down the road here, as we're talking delegation of power and things like that. Are we gonna start to look for councilmen that sit at other boards and that could create really a problem. It sounds good for maybe the power side of it, but it could go real bad. And you start really going too far into the commissions that you're appointing or that are elected. So that's basically what I have.
Okay, so John, and then we're gonna make a vote.
No, I will have, if I may comment before we vote, please.
John, then Jim, and then we're cutting off.
Okay, so what I'm really hearing here is that the council has inadequate involvement in the budget process and is just trying to get a seat at the table that improves its involvement. That's what I'm hearing. And that this is the solution that the council has developed as an attempt to address that problem, if I'm getting this right. So I know there were other proposals along the way, just so you know, the Charter Commission itself had a proposal from me, actually, to allow the council to appoint half of the BET rather than all of the nominations coming from the mayor, but that was voted down. And that was an attempt to address this involvement problem. I'm wondering if there were to be a council member appointed to serve as a voting member of the BET, would the council just be able to remove that member and replace it with a different council member if they felt that council member was doing a really bad job, or they didn't like them, or they moved away, or something like that? Okay.
You are asking a question that makes me think about the council handbook that I was handed at the beginning of our terms. And counts typically, and Attorney Mednick alluded to this, usually an appointment is selected by whomever is voted by the council members to be the council president. And a solution for this particular one that's been offered, which I have no issue with, is that this person be selected and then voted on by a majority of the members. If there was a situation where the membership believed that that person was acting outside the scope or outside the job of representing the council, I imagine there was a way to adjust council rules. So not the charter, but in the council rules to essentially recall that person and somehow revote. To be honest, I don't believe there's a provision in the council rules for that right now. Obviously, if this were to go through, we would have to relook at that. But I'm not gonna, we haven't had discussions along these lines. It's a novel question, but a good one nevertheless.
Okay. Question for Josh.
Yes.
You mind? Go. So if in lieu of establishing a term in the charter for this person, would, I'd be curious what the other council members would, as I suggested, 1 year as a way of kind of containing the problem. If you have a problem, would you prefer to have the appointment made in accordance with the rules of the council?
Yes, and the reason is a lot of times there are appointments or positions on the council that do occur over the period of a term or over multiple terms. There are people who've been committee chairs of a certain committee for multiple terms because they've developed a certain amount of experience and the council believes they should remain in that role. So I would agree with that suggestion.
No, thank you.
And I imagine.
Everybody else okay
colleagues
with that
Definitely, I
concept?
want to give them an opportunity to say something if they feel.
Everybody else is okay with that concept? All the
Looks like council
members?
member C.
Okay.
I have a quick question. In the question of the way it's being described that the council president is the anointer. So nobody else would have an ability to put a name up on the council
That's what it
floor?
said.
That's not.
That's what the handbook says.
Oh,
Well, it says the council president would name the person and then the council would vote on it. So that means that no other person from, could be nominated?
There are rules in the handbook as well, like if you miss three, I think it says if you miss three committee meetings that council president will be council. There are rules about that, but I know that when I came on board, like the switch over between council presidents, I knew nothing about, and it was a kind of something to me, last minute, that was not in the council handbook at all. So there are things that we do for longevity. I think Doug Hempstead, you and I have talked about some of those things that have just been done forever that are not in the handbook. So it would be something that have to be added and kind of buttoned up.
Yeah, and I would just like to, there are certain things that are customs and there are certain things that are rules. So for example, council has a custom where the council president usually is changed on an annual basis. There's no rule. That's a norm, it's a custom. Council has engaged in for as long as I've been on the council. No, that doesn't work. Oh, it's off.
It's in the charter.
Whoops,
It's in the
sorry,
charter.
guys. I forgot it was off. So just to very briefly recap. Council has both customs and rules. So there are customs. So for example, like council president usually serves 1 year, does not usually serve consecutive years. That is a custom. There's no rule for that. There are rules regarding who appoints to various, like, for example, like there's a council member who sits on the WPCA. That is a council that is appointed by the council president. If there needs to be a vote, so be it, but usually that is done usually on consent because there's usually not a contested vote for that sort of thing. Obviously, if we needed to adjust the council rules, if there be a majority vote in this particular circumstance, then we would adjust the rules so long as the majority of the council agrees with it. But in terms of Doug's question about could another council member suggest someone, of course they can. And usually council presidents solicit input for appointments, whether it be for positions having to do with the council member or positions across the city. I mean, how many of us have solicited names of people to be on boards and commissions? So I hope that answers your question. Jalen, I don't know if you wanted to say something. No? Okay.
Well, it does and it doesn't. I guess one question when your motion setting up the committees at the beginning of the year, anybody can make a motion to put somebody else on a committee. If it fails, it fails. But the way this is saying that this is basically like doing a mayoral appointment, the mayor gets to anoint, the council gets to anoint, and the council gets to approve. So there's no opportunity if there's you have to put a single vote. In other words, there's no way of putting anybody else up. And then that to me kind of suggests that if obviously the majority party is going to pick a person from the majority and there's no minority representation from the council on that Board of Investment and Taxation. So it's concerning.
Thank you, Doug. Jim?
Yes, thank you. There are a number of things I like about the proposals in terms of being able to share viewpoints across different bodies of the government. The first thing that kind of came to mind, or the phrase that came to mind, having been on the BET for 12 years, was be careful what you wish for, because there are a lot of BET meetings. And if you're mandated to go to all of them, like charter, gird your loins, because it's a long process. And so I just wanted to make sure that's out there. So so I'm gonna just let you know, although I'm in many ways in favor of this concept, I'm not gonna vote for this now. I think this needs time to percolate. I would suggest to the Common Council in the next, send people to the BET, not because, it's mandated by the charter yet, it may be down the line, but so you can get a sense of what's going on, what's involved, and what your actual commitment is going to be in that budget process. Once again, a lot of conceptually, I'm in favor of a lot of this, but I don't think it's to the point where I can support this in this iteration of the Charter Revision Commission. So I just want to put that out there.
Thank you, Jim, and we will, at this time, vote on it, and I, I'll remind members of the commission that we're nearly an hour into this meeting. We've muddled through one of the remaining 21 items that the council sent us in late July. There's simply not time or let me check that. There is time to get probably through some of these. The ones that there's not, if there are questions, there's no tabling at this point. I think if there's something that you don't feel comfortable with, or you don't feel like you have enough knowledge, you vote no, and we'll move on, and we'll hopefully address it another time. So is there a motion, or there has been a motion to consider 10? I think perhaps the right approach would be to amend it to be either voting or non-voting, and then we'll vote from there. So I will amend, it was John's motion, I believe, to consider item 10, which is to change to Article 7(2)(a)(2) and 3, to add a common council member to the BET. I will amend that to consider adding a non-voting common council member to the BET.
Am I supposed to be able to respond?
You've made a motion to consider the item. Presumably we need to consider adding either do you want to make a motion to add a member, and then we would have to then consider either voting or non-voting?
We can have two different votes.
Yeah. Okay, for the voting, one for the non-votes. That's why I was just spending years to start with the non-voting.
I understand if both fail, but if it pass.
You can't pass a motion.
You can't pass both.
Motion with your amended
Okay,
version. Once that vote is taken, you can make it.
okay, understood. Yes, that makes sense.
So the motion is to approve adding a non-voting member of the Common Council to the BET. Steve?
Should we lay out that it be an appointment by the president with a majority vote of the council, and that it would be for a term in accordance with the rules of the council?
That is,
We should probably have those in.
That makes sense.
Correct. That draft something.
Thank you.
Yeah.
we can do a roll call vote for this. John, the vote is for a non-voting member of the Common Council to the BET.
I am in favor.
Rick? Yes.
Jim?
No.
Carl?
No.
Doug?
No.
Better than no. Ed,
No.
Tanya,
No,
Joe? Sorry, Joe, couldn't hear
You're
you.
mu-
Still muted.
Joe, you're mute. One hand for yes.
Yeah,
two hands for no.
thumbs down. There we go. Okay.
No, sorry about that.
Joe is a no. I'm a no. Doesn't matter.
Mr. Chairman.
What are the time?
I'm sorry, Miss Tanya. Tanya, I'm so sorry.
no, I voted. I said no.
She did.
Yeah, I have you down. Okay.
Okay, I didn't hear it, sorry.
4, 6, 7. So, who's your substitute? Would someone like to make a motion to approve to add a voting member?
I'll make that motion.
Okay.
That's the same provisions.
It would be the same.
Same provisos.
Right, so for the non-voting, clause 72 for voting.
The only difference is a voting member, when they're appointed, you have to take into the calculus the overall membership of the BET to comply with minority party representation. The non-voting, you did not have to. So it's not a difficult, it's not insurmountable, but it's something you should be aware of.
Jim?
Just quickly, just with the notion that this is like something that the council is asking for, I just want to just put like a quick note there that this is something that, like, after speaking to a lot of constituents, that this is feedback that we got. So this is not just things that, yeah, the council made the recommendation, but this is something that we got from our constituents. We hear a lot of it in parks, talking to people that they want us involved in this process. So I just wanted to change that so that the narrative's not that the council is asking for the seat at the table.
Certainly, and to be clear, when I reference these 21 things, these 21 items that were sent to us by the council, I mean, they were quite literally sent to us by the council. The assumption is that it is a reflection of what council members are hearing from their constituents, in addition to their own thoughts on best practices.
Just one thing to that too is,
No,
I was, my
not
vote.
to- I'm sorry, not to interrupt, but I think the comments that were made by Councilmember Sneed is somewhat one-sided because several constituents that I have spoken to are against this. So even though the statement was made that the council, I think each individual council member, depending on who they talk to, will have a different perspective. I think it's important to understand that.
Understood, and we will proceed under the assumption that the council members who were in favor of any particular thing are reflecting the views of their constituents. Those opposed are the same, and we'll go forward that way.
And that's what I was making my point too on my vote. I was voting to pass it on to the council since they were split on what they were doing. Let them go that route because, we could sit here all night and like Tyler's saying, we could do this with all 20 things that are left to do tonight and that'll drive you crazy. What we're doing is we're passing it on to them and then they're going to kick around with up, down, and around.
Just one caveat to that, you're going to be sending them a proposal. When you make the choice, you're limiting their choice to the item that's before them. And you can't give them a.
Absolutely. That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Right.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Right, Steve.
So we're voting on adding a voting member, same provisions that Steve covered before. John?
So again, I am hearing that the council needs a seat at the table. And this is a way to do it. I vote in favor.
Rick?
I'm going to abstain.
Jim?
I don't know.
Carl?
Yes.
Oh, yes. Doug?
No,
Ed?
No.
Tanya?
No,
Joe?
Yes,
That is a 3 yes, 5 no, 1 abstain. To 10. It's not. So for the the remaining items that have been unaddressed by this commission, which are 16 through 21, the 14 and 15 are related. What I would recommend that we do, I will entertain a motion to consider those together so that we can discuss and debate and then vote on those items. This is the time to address I think this will be the time to address the memorandum that the commission has received. The request was to make this part of the available documents. I don't know if the city's had a chance to do that yet, but if not, we will. This is something we received late in the day today. Memorandum regarding the cap on school budget requests. I'd like to ask Attorney Bendick to address that. I don't know if everyone on the commission has had a chance to read it. I believe it was circulated by email. It's a memorandum from Thomas Mooney. Steve, would you like to go over that so that we can discuss this?
Yeah, to the extent I can. It came in very late this afternoon, and I'm not presenting a legal rebuttal to the memo, but the memo is a very doctrinaire memo, to say the least, that is an assertion of powers and authority that are much less profound than suggested in the memo. Let me just tell you what the provision is that they're very concerned about. And I'll tell you the genesis of it, and there are other reasons to think about whether you want to go with the memo or not, the section or not. Is over the weekend as we were drafting the version of the document in response to the council's general recommendations, we were taking a look at 10-1 D and D1. And this is at the very beginning of the budget process where the mayor and the CFO asked the departments to present a budget to the mayor so that the mayor can then prepare a budget to go to the council and to the BET. And I was asked by a city official whether or not it would be permissible as a matter of policy to put a restriction on departments of the city as they present their budgets to the mayor. So the mayor lays out guidelines and makes suggestions about what their budget proposals look like, that we have certain increases with collective bargaining agreements. We're going to take that into consideration, obviously, inflationary concerns, the cost of goods, the cost of tariffs, whatever the issue may be that's going to impact on the next fiscal year. The mayor and the CFO are entitled under law to make those considerations. And in most cases, those considerations are taken into account by each of the departments that present a budget to the community. But throughout the state of Connecticut, in many places throughout the state of Connecticut, boards of education come in with their own budget number that doesn't bear any relationship to the general policies of the community that is the tax raising community to address their department. They're a department. They're not a separate district. They call themselves a district. I guess they're a district from the point of view of education policy in the state, but they are not a taxing district. If they were a regional school district, that would be different. The taxing district is and the people in charge of the taxes are the mayor and BET and the council. And so it, to me, seemed like a very innocent provision to try to get some control in the budget process. So you don't have one department coming in with a proposal that is at significant variance with other departments. Every department in the city, including the Board of Ed, serves constituents of this community. Youth Services serves children, Board of Education serves children, Public Works serves everybody who wants to have their sidewalks and streets paved. And under Connecticut law, it is very clear that the municipality has the ability to establish its budgetary procedures. And there's very clear case law that has been decided since the Home Rule Act was adopted in the state of Connecticut, that makes it very clear the boards of education need to comply with local procedures. There's a budgetary procedure, they have to comply with it. That budgetary procedure cannot abrogate their state statutory functions. They control their line items. I don't think that there's a mayor or council, or in your case, a BET, that questions that. That is clear. But the bottom line is controlled by the general government, the municipal government. And this is true for a lot of things. It's true for procurement. I have charters where procurement processes include boards of education. And we've tried to put provisions in there to make sure boards of education get priority. It's a very big part of the government. They have a very demanding requirement at a certain time of the year. And I've drafted provisions for them in that regard. Multi-year agreements. The Board of Education has no authority to enter into, on the general government side, a multi-year agreement. If there's a multi-year agreement using general funds, they have to come to the council for approval. That's not true in hiring a school superintendent. That's not true with the Teacher Negotiation Act, but it is true on pensions. If there's a pension issue in a collective bargaining agreement, it comes back to the city. And so the cases that are cited here, and I've not done a review. Obviously, we got this about a half hour before the meeting was starting this evening. Cites a case from 1940. Cites a case which predates home rule by 17 years. It cites a statute that is written in the context of boards of finance and town meetings for communities that don't have charters. It's a section of the statutes that was drafted before home rule went into effect. And under home rule, we have the ability, the municipality has the ability to set its standards for the conduct of its business. And the submission of a budget is not a Board of Education prerogative. It is a requirement of the local government, and the local government sets the procedures. Now, that said, there's a threat of a lawsuit in this memo, which is standard. I remember a Board of Education arguing before City Council for capital funds and arguing that we had no ability as a City Council, as a Board of Aldermen, this happens to be a New Haven case, to control the line items of their capital budget. They brought that to court, they lost. Capital budgets are municipal budgets. Municipal budgets controlled by, in this case, the council does have a stronger role in that. In most communities, they do. And so I don't put a lot of water in this opinion. I have great respect for Tom Mooney. I've known Tom for a number of years. We've talked about these issues over the course of time. But I think that whether this is in the charter or not, and I'm not saying that you should put it in the charter. We raised it as we thought it was a reasonable idea. But at this stage in a charter process, when you start bringing ideas up, you may want to think about whether you want to take the leap at this moment. So my advice would be, make a judgment that you think is the meritorious judgment in terms of getting this charter passed and not creating any kind of controversy. But if I were advising the next mayor of the city of Norwalk, I would advise them that they have authority to do exactly what the charter provision would require them to do or allow them to do. And I think that that is a case that they should invite from the Board of Education. It's just not, no department has a right to come in with a wish list budget. And that's what it is. If it's not constrained and if it's not part of the budget process. So that's my response.
Linda? You'd like to offer the school's perspective?
Okay, thank you. Again, I'm not going to get into a legal argument between the two attorneys on this, but I do want to share a practical perspective. We make budget requests to you, to the city. We have conversations, we've had conversations about setting a preliminary cap. We've had conversations about setting the final cap, of which the Board of Ed should come into within guidelines at the line item level. And we've had conversation. I think we've come to some common ground into where that be. But from a practical perspective, the role of the Board of Ed in setting the budget, I'll give an example. This year, we are opening up Sono School. Sono School started as an incubator school. Each year, we incrementally added a classroom. Each year, we incrementally added staff to support the classroom. This year, not only are we incrementally adding staff, but we're incrementally adding the cost to run a building. This is an entirely new building to the district that has never existed before. There are costs that go with that. Utilities, custodial, security, all of those things. What we're saying is when the Board of Ed presents its initial budget, it outlines the needs given what the Board of Ed knows. Throughout this process, when it gets to the council does have the opportunity to review the basis of our submission. They will have the opportunity to set a cap. And at some point, the board will have to comply with whatever number that is set by the city and approve a budget no higher than that amount. What we're saying in this case, setting an amount for the Board of Ed to come in under without any information, without receiving any information from the Board of Ed, not knowing what we're requesting, not knowing what we're planning, no information on enrollment, no information on any special needs that we've assessed, how does the council make a decision on what that number is? Given the opportunity to present that, the council does eventually review our presentations. We present to the council, to the BET, and they set a preliminary cap, they set a cap, and we get to that number. Our concern is the ability for the Board of Ed to come in and to say, do not exceed 3%, regardless of what your needs are, binds them in terms of appropriating and making the right decisions for the children. So that's the reasoning behind that. Now, whether the case law supports it or not, whether it's from the 1800s or not, we're just making a practical argument on the ability of the Board of Ed to truly present a budget that the board feels is in the best interest of the children. Throughout the budget process, we will have these subsequent conversations and that number most likely will get trimmed down. But I think the Board of Ed deserves the opportunity to present a budget that meets the needs of what the Board of Ed feels is in the interest of their children. So that's the practical argument and the practical scenario in this instance.
Very
It's not-
brief. Again, it's very brief.
Sorry, Madam, you are.
Come to the
So I'm assuming that you know that boards of education are under the power of the state legislature, right? So my understanding, a town board of education is an agency of the state in charge of education in that town. And to that end, it is granted broad powers by the legislature, and it is beyond control by the town or any of its officers in the exercise of those powers or in the incurring of expense to be paid by the town, necessitated thereby, except as limitations are found in statutory provisions.
What are you reading from?
So
What are you reading
given-
from? What are you reading from?
This is information from our council.
What's the what's the statutory citation? Where are you getting?
I
this?
read to you before statute 10-222, but what I'm telling you is that as we fall under the legislature, which means that we are a ward of the state. So that's what makes it
You're
different.
not a ward of the state. I'm not gonna get into a legal
So-
argument with you.
You're right, you're an attorney, I'm not. I'm
Yeah,
just
no,
saying-
I don't want to, but I'm just saying that is a misstatement of law.
I'm just telling you
Yeah.
what's here
Yeah.
that I got from our attorney.
You're
That
reading it out of,
specifies-
you're reading it out of context. You're
It
reading
spec-
words.
No, it specifies that that town boards of educations are granted powers by the legislature. That's all I'll say, because I'm not an attorney. I'm not gonna get into.
But you're making a statement publicly in that term.
That's fine, and I hope you're making note of it.
Mr. Chairman, this is exactly what I've been saying for the last 3 meetings. Why are we doing this all at the 11th hour? This is exactly the reason why we're all going to look foolish when this whole thing is over. We're rushing stuff through that needs some discussions. And I'm embarrassed that we're gonna be getting into arguments like this, which we've done almost every meeting lately. So I don't know about the rest of the commission, but I'm telling you, I'm about to say, I'm out of here. We've come too far. We've been doing this for 10 months. And now, you know, a week before we've got to have everything put on the table for everybody, we don't even know what uniforms we want to wear or what stadium we're going to play in. We are just throwing it all out there, and this could go on all night long. We could stay all night. Because every time we touch a subject, we're going to have a discussion like this. So I'm just putting it out there, but I don't really want to sit through things like that. I think it's embarrassing for all of us.
Thank you, Mr. McQuaid. Doug?
Mr. Chair, I think I said this before, and I agree with my counterpart over there, Mr. McQuaid. This is a lot of information, a lot of pre-discussion should have happened with this, a lot of pre-investigation. We got a ton of material today. I don't know. I think by the time I even got around to open it up, it was like after 5. So I'm going to make a motion to table 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. All right.
Yes,
It's
so-
just, and I want to give my reason for tabling. My reason for tabling it is there is insufficient time for this commission to take up all these items and invest the necessary time to sort this out. This coming out tonight, just about, you know, what our attorney just said. I mean, this is going to take months. I would suggest that the council at some point, what I'm saying, the council at some point take these items up as a separate item on with the Board of Investment and Taxation. So I made a motion to table.
Right. Do we need to address his motion to table before we do anything else?
It's a motion, it's
Yeah.
not debatable. So
Yeah.
it's
Sure,
not debatable.
I thought we weren't
Undebatable,
tabling
right?
any more items. I thought we had to vote because we have a timeline to stay on top of.
Well, Doug has made a motion to table it, which, I mean.
It's not arguable or not discussion. There's no discussion.
It's not up for debate, so we have to vote whether to table or not. We'll go, John?
I do have a question just related to the issue Doug raised and the amount of time that's available.
Discussion on the
There's no
table.
discussion.
Okay.
Tabling you don't.
In that case, I pass, come back to me in a moment.
Oh. Okay, Rick?
Yes.
Rick is a yes to table. Jim,
Yes.
Carl,
My only question is, when would it be handled?
it wouldn't be.
It's done.
This is it. This is.
We would have to untable, we would have to vote to untable it and.
There's no
drop it
vote
again.
on it.
No, there's
This
no
is the
vote
last
on it.
vote.
See, no.
Meetings.
No, if it's
No.
tabled, it wouldn't be picked up until the next commission.
If it's tabled, you're effectively saying to the council, you're not addressing item.
We're not addressing anything in 16 through 21 in the table.
Correct.
So we have. Yes, John is a come back to me. Rick is a yes, Jim is a yes, Carl,
Yes.
Ed,
Yes.
Tanya,
No,
Joe,
Yes.
who'd I miss?
Back to me.
Back to John.
So, I vote no. I mean, this is what we're here for. We're supposed to be discussing exactly these items and all the requests from the council, and this is the time to do
John,
it.
that's it, you voted. That's it.
Yep.
I'm a no. Who did I miss? Did I get Tanya down? I don't have Tanya down. as-
Doug votes, he said no.
Doug introduced it.
Yes.
That's
Yeah,
a yes.
well, yes.
Well, so that's the end of that.
So
Yep, for 16 through 21. Heather?
I just want to go on record because I think it's really important that this did come to you late. And I think the reason, I'm just going to say it publicly, the reason this came to you late is because we got a lot of, on the council, got a lot of flack and were pulled into the Board of Ed chaos that happened at the time that you got this. And the intention is to make it so that our community doesn't have to deal with a lot of it. It was painful for all of us to hear and to want to support. We want to support the Board of Ed. whether I agree or not, hearing calls for her, Dr. Estrella's firing or resignation, I thought was not a good look or not something I wanted for my community. And I think the intention of this is to try to mitigate some of that so that we could all work more collaboratively with the Board of Ed. So that, I just want to say that, I think that's why it's late, and I understand not talking about it now, but we do need to address what happened. And I think what happened is we got presented with a budget that was a crazy percentage of increase for the budget. And it was like, don't worry about it, we'll figure it all out. I, as a teacher too, I need to stay in my lane. I don't want to worry about the budget. I want to know that people are making good decisions about how our tax dollars are spent for our seniors and the people who, are paying the taxes too. And I want to make sure that our kids are taken care of. I like to see the money in my classroom too. But I think that there's a real issue here, and this is kind of a little bit reactionary of how we were trying to address it. So I really appreciate the conversation that we have around it. And I appreciate that it was brought forward in a way to try to address this, even if it doesn't happen right now. We all need to work together to figure out how we don't get crazy budget requests. I'm sorry if I'm saying they're crazy, but they are, it's more of a wish list than, DPW doesn't give us, their wish lists in their budgets as well. So that, I think that's what we're trying to do, is make sure it was less of a wish list and more of a, what's reasonable.
Josh?
Thank you, Councilmember. I must say, I am surprised with this particular action, because if you look at these items, they're not all created equal. I mean, number 17 was actually something that was on consensus with the entire council, which was to require the Board of Estimate to have a joint meeting with the council before April 18th. In the world of things that are harmful versus things that are innocuous, I mean, come on, that's not such a big one. Number 18 was changing the submission date for the BET from April 1st to April 18th. Again, something that actually gives the BET more time, not less time. And I agree with overall what Councilmember Dunn said, which is, there was a feeling on the council, and I know Councilmember Najolski-Eichner gave similar arguments in the past to try and deal with these issues. And I actually thought it was a relatively constructive discussion that happened at the last meeting. So I want to make sure that our majority, and I'm sorry, also number 20 was also a consensus item by the council, which was changing the final date, I think, to May 14th. So I just want to make sure, and I'm saying the majority, but since Heather's here, I mean, this is a bipartisan consensus here on multiple items that were listed here. So I just want to make sure that's noted for the record.
Mr. Chair.
And
Jim, please, so I just want to recognize Jim.
This commission has taken up a lot of issues, some of, maybe many of which were unresolved in the last charter. And we've done a lot of work. And this is tabled, so this is done for now. But your goals are laudable. So it's not this, we do, I think as a body, this commission has said, we have not had enough time to deliberate. We have not enough time to discuss. We could have had workshops about these kinds of things. There's so much that we could have done, or that we can do. Let's put it that way. In the next cycle, whenever that is, we can deliberate on these issues and flesh them out with more information and get consensus and deal with it another time. That's really, I think, because of the constraints put upon us, that's what we have decided to do here. But I just want to let you know, I don't think, and well, I'll speak for myself. This doesn't mean that we don't appreciate a lot of the ideas that are being put forward, or that we don't think or that I don't think a lot of them are good ideas. But I think about things like unintended consequences, think about all the things that we don't know that could spiral off of these decisions. And so that's why, for me, I'm very uncomfortable with that. So the discussion is done for now, but amongst yourselves in the future, it should not be done. because it's an important issue.
I just want to respectfully request, I understand you've made your decision. I would like to respectfully request, I think there are several council members who would like to just make some comments into the record. I would appreciate a couple minutes so that my colleagues can make whatever statements they wish to make. I know council member.
I do have my hand raised. Please.
I was gonna point to you, Greg. That's why I took the mic here.
May I just say one last thing as a member of the commission just before the council people speak, if that's okay?
Yes.
I just want to say, with respect to item number 17, that the Board of Estimate and the joint, that there be a meeting between the Board of Estimate and the Common Council on or before April 18th. I don't think I have a good idea or had a good idea why the date was significant, but a joint meeting of the Common Council and the Board of Estimate is something that can occur cooperatively. I don't think anyone's going to resist either on the BET or the Common Council such a meeting. It wasn't clear to me what the purpose of that meeting would have been. So they're not all equal, but there are matters that are not quite as straightforward as they at least appear to be, at least to me. So that's my only statement. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Burnett and then Mr. Lopez.
Great, thank you. The spirit of my comments are that even though these items were tabled, I don't see it as a total, gloom and doom situation. The meetings between the Common Council and the BET can occur at any time. Those can be scheduled. We can outline the focus of the meeting, the theme of the meetings. So, and I believe there is a spirit to ensure that happens. So that's one item that will be addressed. The other item is as far as setting a separate cap for the Board of Education. When the council sets the operating budget overall cap, there is a schedule that is associated with that cap, whereby every department, including the Board of Ed, has a clear understanding of, in the case of the Board of Education, the increase that they will receive. So they do receive guidance in terms of what their quote unquote cap is when we set the overall operating budget cap. So again, I don't see this as a total gloom and doom. I think business continues to operate. The budget process continues to go forward. And hopefully with total cooperation, we continue to do the things that we're doing to maintain our AAA bond rating and continue to move the city forward.
Thank you, Greg.
So I want to speak to something related to timing. Timing should never be an excuse or a justification to avoid having discussions to advance legislative financial reforms, especially when it comes to transparency and accountability. And I can tell you, as someone that works in international development. And so this proposal, we thought was a strong proposal that was responsive and balanced. And so I'll finish with saying that good governance doesn't have an expiration date. It shouldn't expire. I'm shocked that it didn't continue. We didn't have any more discussions about it. And of course, I admit, yes, we should have proposed this long before, but it doesn't matter. If it's policy, it's for the benefit of the city, it's worth really delving in deep to try to figure out something for the benefit of everyone that's involved.
Thank you. Any other members of the council?
Yeah, so
To address the commission.
Thank you, Chair. And I just want to briefly add to that, to be clear to the voters that we did raise these issues. We raised these issues from the very beginning. This was a request of this commission to address some of these issues. We held workshops last summer that in part addressed these issues. We tried to understand how it happened in other cities. And yes, I agree, this is work that will need to continue. I think that it is very important that we change the process to be more accountable to the voters. I think that there is a tremendous amount of work to be done. And I will refer voters to the, I believe, 12 hours of conversation the council had on these proposals over the last month. So there was an enormous amount of discussion before this was brought forward. I hope that people will take the time to look at it and watch it and really try to understand what we're after here, because I do think that the council as a whole has seen gaps in the process. I think that, as Ms. Dunn referred to, what happened this spring really cast into high relief how our process is not working. And these were proposals largely tailored to try to address that. I'm particularly disappointed that we did not even have a chance to discuss the override provision, because again, to be clear, that is an existing provision in the charter. It is merely, the language on it is merely unclear. And there has been debate within Corporation Counsel's office as to what the existing language means. So our hope was to clarify that and try to make it a proposal that was that again respected what I believe is the original intent in the charter. So I'm disappointed that we didn't even have a chance to debate and discuss that. I think that is a disservice to this community to not have that issue brought forward. I hope that we will continue to work on it. I will, and again, I will just urge the voters to continue to really push on this process. We need more budget transparency. We need a budget process that has more voter accountability. And at the end of the day, the way to do that is to get more of the budget in the hands of elected officials. And perhaps this is an opportunity then to, again, restart the whole conversation about the BET and why an unelected body has authority over the budget in the way that the elected officials do not.
Thank you, Marcia.
Oh, I'll tell you, a lot of my colleagues said a lot, but I'll just like take this time to just thank you guys for all the work that you've done. These conversations might have been long, but I think that it's been beneficial, and we still have a lot of great stuff that we did agree on. And we were able to move forward. And I look forward to hopefully working with you guys to make sure that this stuff actually happens and passes come November. These are debates, and this is our Constitution. This is something that Ms. McQuaid, you taught me about long time ago when the founding fathers created this country, and we debated. We have stuff that you guys recommended that we shot down, and stuff that we recommended that you guys just tabled at the moment. So I just really thank you guys for the work that you've done. I know you got a little bit left. And let's just get this across the finish line. You guys gave us some recommendations that we could work on, sending people to the BET, and I think that we should do it as a council. It's a lot of things that we could do right now with our current system, and let's just try to make the best of it. So again, thank you guys for everything that you're doing.
Thank you, Jalen. So before we adjourn, because there's nothing left to do, I'm going to make a motion to reconsider, untable, whatever you will, items 17, 18, and 20, which are specific to just dates. I don't know that's something that would require a ton of debate. We have the CFO with us. If there's any questions about why those dates matter, those are the 3 consent items for the council. If there's any way to salvage those, I think it would be a good opportunity to do so. If the rest of you would rather not, and you vote to leave it as is, I will not be offended. My feelings will not be hurt, but I would just like to at least try to save those 3 things that were consent items from the council.
17, 18, and
17, 18, and 20. Those are
Let me ask this question. Is a motion to untable arguable?
Good question. The vote to table wasn't.
yeah, I don't recall.
So
Mason's
my motion is to untable 17, 18, and 20.
It
So we
doesn't, it sounds like it would be arguable. It's not a tabling motion, which as I understand is the
Well,
only.
then
motion.
perhaps it is.
Reconsideration.
It's a reconsideration.
I don't have basic.
Does Mr. Hempstead? know?
Doug, you're our authority.
You are our
What do you
Masons
say?
annual,
And who's an authority on Masons?
Doug.
Mr. Camacho is correct. An item that you're asking to be removed from the table, all right, is debatable. All right. So,
Okay, so I'm asking for 17, 18, and 20 to be untabled and reconsidered.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
should we do them one at a time, or they will be bound to each other?
I would bind them together because it's just date.
Okay.
It's just dates.
All right.
Can I then speak on those?
Yes, please, Ed.
So once again, I don't know, and maybe I've not been paying close attention, but I don't know why April 18th is the target date as opposed to April 30th. That is a discussion that at least I have not been aware of. The submission date, moving it from April 1 to April 18th. You know, once again, I'm not really sure why 2 weeks matters one way or the other. And changing the final date to May 14th. Once again, I don't really, what's the date now? And I don't know if, once again, we're talking about a week or 2 weeks, and why that would matter one way or the other. You know, I think the part of the problem is that we have a set of bad facts that, you know, this spring was a difficult spring, more difficult than in prior years. And I think when you take a bad facts and you try to make a policy from those sort of exceptional facts, you end up with making a bad policy. You know, this may have been discussed for hours in the past month before the Common Council, but it hasn't been discussed much at all here. And that is certainly not for a significant number of hours, perhaps maybe minutes. So I think I'm of the school that if, you know, you act in haste, you end up repenting in leisure. I don't see the urgency of this, particularly since, once again, the Common Council can call for the convening of a Charter Revision Commission at any time. There is one automatically scheduled for 5 years from now, with the maybe increased composition of the Common Council, or with these other changes that we've agreed to, and that hopefully the Common Council will agree to as well. I think there are so many moving parts that it may very well affect these 3 items, or these remaining 4 or 5 items that were tabled. So I just don't see a compelling reason to untable what has been tabled for good reason. So I'm going to vote no on the motion.
So I guess, Ed, to answer your question, the context for those date changes would have been had we approved the cap. So, right, to the extent that we're not discussing that, I guess it's a moot point. Nora?
I thought that you did approve the cap. I thought 14 and 15 were voted in favor, in which case, and that's why the date change follows from that, right? The cap has been approved. So the date changes follow from that cap.
Well, the cap is.
The contextual changes, conformity changes.
The councilwoman's absolutely correct. The cap was approved.
Yes.
So you currently have a cap, but you don't have provisions that address the cap, and you don't have dates that allow for submissions that are triggered by the cap. And that's by tabling it that you've taken all those things away. So you have a cap in the charter that's been approved, and you
The dates to
and you don't have dates.
Right, and these dates were the dates that Mr. Mendick and you know, discussed with our CFO and with, you know, in a great detail, I think, in order to.
We have also modified these dates in the draft. We put in the most recent dates. I worked with the CFO and we worked with the Board of Education as well to come up with a date for their submission of the resubmission of a budget on April 15th, which doesn't show up in here. That would have been discussed if there was a debate. But you have the cap, and well, you have the documents in front of you, right? You had a cap, and you had dates that would make the cap work.
But I'm a little confused. We had a cap before, right? And we had a date for the setting of the cap before, no?
You approved the other night a cap, separate caps for the general government and the Board of Education.
Understood.
That is a fact. That's approved.
No. But what I'm saying is that before those separate caps, we had a date for approving the cap. What was a single cap? Has that date changed also?
No.
So why having to have 2 caps? Why would that alter that date?
Because because both caps in the proposal from the council had end date actions that needed to be taken with regard to modifications of the cap by the BET.
the caps aren't submitted on the same day. The two separate caps could not be submitted on the day that the one original combined.
Yeah, no, the date for the submission of the cap is there and these two would go there. The question is, what do you do with the caps? That is the question that had to be answered in item number 19. So you approved item 14, which created a new cap on the Board of Ed and the general government cap, but you didn't have a conclusion. What you have is a cap that's been approved with the current conclusion that's in the charter in terms of the interaction between the council and the Board of Estimate. And so.
Well, this is exactly the reason why all this stuff is happening all at once at the last minute, and it's creating confusion. My understanding was that we voted on two caps, one for the Board of Ed, one for the city, but I did not understand that to mean that we had to change the dates that we had for submission of the cap when it was a combined cap. I didn't understand that that necessarily meant that we had two different dates.
Can I provide a clarification that I think, so the two caps date remains the original date. What changed is the 15, which is the
That's right.
cap compliant
Exactly.
budget. So so it's not 14, and that's why I believe there's some confusion. So 14, the dates remain the same. 15 is the request for cap compliant budgets. In order to do that, in order to give the Board of Ed sufficient time, that required moving the schedule back by a couple of weeks, which again, I believe that the CFO, and I think generally folks who've been involved in this process think is probably beneficial, right? Our current budget process runs about the earliest in the state. There's not necessarily a particular reason. If we move the dates to the 18th, that allows the Board of Ed to provide a cap compliant budget before that, such that the BET is actually voting on a budget they have seen, how it would comply with the cap before they take that vote. So I generally think that's a beneficial thing. So I believe that's
the school more time.
gives the school more time to create that budget and allows the BET then to be taking a vote, having seen that budget rather than taking the vote before that budget comes out.
And has the Board of Ed agreed to that date, or have they spoken against it? I'm unclear about that now.
This past weekend on Friday, I believe Attorney Metnick and CFO Schmidt, we did meet and we agreed with a new date with the Board of Ed. Our disagreement today was that
It's a different issue.
it's a new language that came up this weekend that we were not aware of.
Yeah, and I can see that that was new language. That's why in the opening statement, I made the point that we should not consider it or derail the process because of that language, which I think is relatively innocent, but I don't think that we should just derail it. So I do agree with that.
So I will withdraw my my prior comments. Considering that everyone seems to be on board with this and it's not going to create hardship or more confusion or difficulty in the budget process, and I would support untabling those three items.
So.
Mr. Chair?
It was 17, 18, 20.
17, 18, 20, yes.
Jim?
Yeah, so it's interesting. I made a note, because we approved a 14.
Yes.
And then seeing that we were running out of time, I made a note, why did we approve that if we're not going to be able to get through everything else that supports it?
Well, and so I think we had approved 14 and 15.
Well, we approved it because they all agreed that they were in favor of a cap,
Which is why
but that's only part of the.
Right, which is why I was hoping that 17, 18, and 20 wouldn't be that heavy a lift, right? Because we approved 14 and 15 with the understanding that the city and the schools had agreed on those two things. We heard from Mr. Asmani.
Okay.
I believe we heard from the Board of Ed, who said they were fine with 14 and 15. So we said, great, we're good with 14 and 15.
So does
17, 18, and 20 are now attached to those two.
Right.
So
It's
with
just
all,
moving the dates.
with all of those,
You need 'em.
if 17, 18, and 20 are untabled and we know the correct dates, because apparently we have some date corrections, counselors. On that.
Is anything changed?
14 and 15, we have to have the dates with.
The dates are in the charter that's in
Yeah.
front of you.
Right.
Oh, right, oh, sorry, yes, okay.
It's 16.
No, I'm just
Got it.
saying that this-
May I ask a question about 17?
Yes,
So 17, the wording is to require the Board of Estimate hearings and a joint meeting with council on or before April 18th. I don't understand that sentence.
Yeah, that's, let's see what it says in the actual document.
I can, I think I can help
Jim,
with
would you like
that.
to address that? Or, I'm sorry, this is 17?
Yes.
Let's actually see.
So that, that provision, Ed, actually goes back from there. So it's not just as of what happens on, April 15th when when we would expect the Board of Education to submit their revised budget, but it actually tracks back to, what would be February 28th when the initial cap is made. So the, BET actually has between effectively about a month and a half to conduct any of the hearings that it needs to conduct. And the first bit of here, and the first group of hearings would be on the initial presentations of the budgets.
But do you see what I'm saying? It says to require the Board of Estimate hearings, and then it continues, and a joint meeting with the council on or before. So in other words, the joint meeting would be with the Board of Estimate?
Yeah, so the joint meeting would be between the Board of Estimate, Taxation, and the Common Council. And so that would be, the intention was that would be a post, I guess, reconciled budget, whatever you want to call it. That there would be a meeting, and that was set up for efficiency because there's not a lot of time. The challenge here was doing a lot in that last month of the process without having to extend out the process for reasons that I spoke about before. So we were trying to consolidate a lot of activity within that last month of the process. And so the reason for the joint meeting between the BET and the Common Council was for efficiency. So you guys didn't have to have two separate meetings on the same budgets.
All right, so just to be clear, then the Board of Estimate hearings should occur before the 18th, and a joint meeting of the Common Council and the Board of Estimate should also occur on or before the 18th. Is that pretty much what we're talking?
Those can actually take place after, because the idea would be that
29th
those
is what's in the draft that we have.
right. And so, yeah, anytime before the 29th, it's on or before the 29th, that joint meeting would happen, because the idea would be that at that point, there would be submitted two revised budgets from the city and from the Board of Education for number one, for a public hearing at that point on the new revised budgets, and also for the Common Council and the BET to consider.
Okay, then I must have an old draft, because my draft says that to move the hearing, that they need to occur on or before the 18th of April. So I must have an old draft.
Yeah, so
That's the resolution.
right, there's the resolution, the date has been updated in the draft. That
I
went
see,
out the
okay.
last couple of days, so
I got you.
it's
Okay, so I have an old, okay.
So, and just to kind of
Yeah,
tie it all together, the BET would still have that initial period of time that it's had in the past, about a month's worth of time, mostly in the month of March, to conduct hearings on the budgets that were originally proposed. And then what the new language does and the rest of the process does is it sets up a structure for the revised budgets, and making sure that the public has a chance to weigh in, making sure that both the BET and the Common Council have a role in that. And that there's time for, if there were major changes, that you could request to talk to the department heads again, and to fully vet the revised budgets.
Okay. All right, thank you. Mr. Schmidt, thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Chairman, I was requesting where if Counselor could read the language in our final document here for those who were looking at it earlier.
From 10-7, the transmittal.
Yeah, we're talking about that. It was 10. It was 10-16 here, but I think it might be the different. Final is it 10? What is it?
10-6.
Is it 10-16?
10-6D would be created by the new language. Is my understanding, right? So.
Yeah, but the budget numbers change, that's sorry, the dates change quite a bit throughout the process because we were extending the process. And so it does capture a couple of sections that are not in their resolution.
Okay, because I don't see
Yeah.
10-60 here in the
Yeah.
final budget.
So
That's even the one that was amended today.
Yeah, please, I mean, I want to cover the dates, because I do think it's important, given the context of the approval of those things the other night, that the dates line up.
So we have to start at the beginning of the process with the,
Do it.
in 10-3, there are no date changes prior to that time. 10-3, the mayor or the designees of the mayor submits to the Board of Estimates and the city council with the change here, on or before February 7th, as opposed to February 15th. Right now, it's February 15th. It would change to February 7th. And the CFO, if you have any, if I'm misstating any of these things, you want to follow along with me, or?
Yeah, we gotta have consistency.
Sure, you want me to go through?
You want to go through the
outline?
things?
Sure.
Yeah, why don't you do that?
So on or before February 7th is when the recommended budgets would be due from the mayor. So that would be the city budget as normally is done. The mayor's recommended budget. That's a week earlier than it's been in the past.
And that's section 10-3.
And then on or before, there may be a couple of day differences between my chart and my outline and what's actually in the language, but so I'll read what I have, and then Attorney Mednick, if there are small tweaks that you need to amend it, please do. February 14th, the CFO or the mayor's designee publishes the recommended budget on or before the 15th.
Let me just say it's 10-4 for everybody's purposes.
Actually, I'll skip this next one because I don't think it made it in. This is something that has been in practice, but and I think we'll continue to do, but this was a Finance and Claims Committee holding a public hearing before the vote on the cap is done. It's something that happens now. It's not in the current charter, not in the current process. But it's something that I think is important for at least the Finance and Claims Committee to receive a hearing, so that when the Common Council is casting its vote on the cap, that they have some context and some detailed information about the budget. On February 28th, the Common Council sets the preliminary limit on appropriations. And that would be the dual cap.
10-5, that is 10-5A.
Okay. On or before April 1st, the BET conducts meetings to hear from city agencies, Board of Education, and within there conducts at least one public hearing. I think Attorney Mednick, I think this is where things got extended out. Instead of it being April 1st, went out to April 18th.
I don't see that.
Either way, I don't think it,
In 10-6.
10-7.
In 10-6, there's a reference to April 15th. And April 29th. So there's the proposed operating budgets on April 15th.
Yeah, it's resubmission of the proposed operating budget on the 15th. And then we also had a provision because you have to realign the tax rate as well. And that would be on the 29th. And I see. The Board of Estimate deliberations, and this is in 10-6C,
Yes.
fall between February 28th and April 22nd.
Including all these small public hearings.
You couldn't. And that was to allow at the end of the process, we were throwing in this extra date, this April 15th date for the resubmission. It gives the Board of Estimate the time to meet with the departments earlier in the process. So that as we're going through the process, all they have to do after the second submission comes in is to bring them back on items that where there are discrepancies or changes that are needed. And that's the reason we have that longer process.
And Counselor, does 10.6C align with number 17 on our little cheat sheet here from the council, 17-21?
Well, the joint meeting of the council, I think,
That,
Was
the
the-
date on the resolution cheat sheet will be different.
yeah, they're gonna be
It's
different dates.
bumped back even.
But the joint meeting actually shows up, Jared did talk about that, because that doesn't show up, because I didn't put it in, because I didn't have any guidance on it, but that would probably be that date. There's a joint hearing between the Finance and Claims Committee, and it would fall, I don't have a date for that.
So that would be,
I
That
would
was
think that would fall within your 10.6C by the 22nd.
they would be by the 22nd, exactly.
Well,
So
10.6C
on
has a
before.
between with an end.
Yes, that's right.
Correct, yeah. so
And the
before
joint
that.
hearing would be in there.
Right, so sometime before April 22nd.
No, it's BET deliberations public hearing, the BET must hold one or more public hearings between February 28th and April 22nd.
We would have to amend it to have the joint meeting somewhere in that period of time as well.
Okay.
Oh, right, that's.
That's the
I
joint.
think that I think that what this illustrates is what we've been talking about, that there's so many moving parts that we haven't really considered in all this, but.
Let me walk through the last month, starting with April 15th, which is when the revised budgets would be due. So, and the idea would be that, so the budgets are received by the Common Council and by the BET on April 15th. Then there would be a week-long period for the BET and the Finance and Claims Committee to hold a joint public hearing and to review the budgets. So there would be a week period there for review. And then after that, between April 22nd and April 29th would be the time for the BET to submit its revised budget. So by April 29th, the BET would prepare its statement of appropriations related tax rates, and that would go to the Common Council.
And they act by the 6th of May.
And then well, that would be before the 29th, and then the Common Council would have a week to make its adjustments by the 6th of May.
I see. So that's 10.6.
And then the final alterations in 10-8C are May 14th.
From May 7th.
Yeah.
Okay.
Um,
May 4th, okay.
And then what's remaining is just that the BET publishes the budget, just a more formality and letting the public know that the budget's been published. And then the 14th, the end date would be the adoption of the tax rates by the BET.
June.
Well, so is our discussion now including 16 on our, of the council submissions, goes 16, 17, 18, and 20?
16 would have to be part of it.
Because we did.
Because it's just another date.
We did not table
right?
that, I don't think, so.
No, that was not, I would have to I will amend my request to reconsider to include 16, 17, 18, 20, because they are strictly dates
Okay.
that we've just discussed. And I think if we've approved 14 and 15, I think it would be silly at best to not address the dates.
Yeah, well.
For something else that we've already approved. So I will amend my motion to reconsider to be 16, 17, 18, and 20. If there are any other questions for the CFO or for Steve, I think we can do that now. But it sounds as though there was some very careful consideration given to all of those dates in connection with the things we've already approved between CFO and Mr. Asmani and all the parties that would have been involved in that. Part of the process.
I've got a question on 16 again, since
Yes.
that's been newly added. What is the Board of Ed has come and they've spoken about these dates, or at least some of these dates, or at least a date. And I was assuming that the March 21st date was the date that they were concerned about. Is that correct? Or are they in agreement with that date now too?
We'll hear from Mr. Osmani about that. I don't want to speak for them.
Yeah, I was gonna ask if we could get consensus from the parties in the room here.
Yep.
If all of these
Yep.
dates are in line with their discussions and if there's.
Yes, Ed. So we did have concerns with the March 21st date because it was going to be too early for us to get it completed. I met with Jared and Steve, and we agreed to move that March 21st date to April 15th, which is what you have now, and we could work
Okay,
with
all
the
right,
April
so
15th date.
my apologies. I'm still working off that old.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's all right. The dates in the updated draft are gonna be a little different, and I think they reflect these discussions, and I think if everybody agrees, which appears to be the case, I'm sorry, we not.
Council. I think that's what Jim asked.
I just wanted to get consensus from
Yeah.
all the council people. We got from the side of Linda. Anybody have any concerns with these dates? Are you good with these dates?
I defer to the experts. It's like.
Yes, no, I think these dates are very much what we, I think, are all in support of. They achieve the objectives.
So motion to reconsider 16, 17, 18, and 20.
I'll make a motion.
The motion was already made.
It was, we never voted, then he amended it.
I amended.
Tyler made the motion.
But you amended it.
Okay, so we will do a roll call. I would like to vote on those as one thing. They're all related.
Yes.
It's 16, 17, 18, 20.
You should say as reflected in the amended draft because the dates are altered in the amended draft.
Absolutely. Yeah, reflected in the amended draft. Thank you, John.
Thank you, John.
We'll start with you, John. as we
Even though we
go
couldn't
down.
read the blue.
Yes, please.
Rick,
Yes, please. Yes, please.
Rick, yes. Yes, you? On 16, 17, 18, 20?
Yeah, moving the date. I know.
Yes,
Yeah.
okay. Carl,
Yes.
Jim,
Yes.
Tanya,
Yes.
Joe,
Yes,
Ed,
Yes, thank you.
Doug,
I believe it.
Doug,
Yes.
I'm a yes. That's unanimous. Thank you all. for
No,
reconsidering.
I
Thank you
need
for
to make a
everybody who's helped us
No,
clarify. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Doug.
You need to make a motion. You made a motion to take it off the table. Now you gotta vote on it.
Now to approve.
We'll now make the motion to approve.
Thank you, Doug.
And I just,
Because that was unanimous, all in favor?
no, no, I just want to make one,
Aye. Oh,
So Doug, you had a point?
I just, it's just what just happened and getting information supposedly over the weekend and that just is why I moved the table the stuff in the first place, because we're still playing with dates tonight and just, I have trouble with that. I like to make sure I got enough information to make a decision. And that's why I originally moved these to table. And seeming that there were meetings that happened we're not aware of and anything like that. So I'm just saying, that's why I moved originally to table this. Okay?
No, it's a fair point, and I'm glad we were able to get the information we needed and
Right.
kind of square the circle there on the thing we had already started.
You might, what
I'm a
I will
yes.
do, what I will do tomorrow or the next day, well in advance of getting the final version of this for the meeting on the 12th, I will send the budget section with all the dates. I'll go through with the CFO and make sure everybody looks at those dates tomorrow, because ultimately, when you approve the final version, we want to make sure all those dates work. So I'll go through with that, go through with the CFO and get those out to you. Probably not tomorrow, probably the next day.
Thanks. All right, so that is everything I think we were
Doug, you got a question?
attempting to address.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, Doug.
Yeah, in the draft back, there were a couple sections. I went through the one that we got yesterday, I think, which were the revisions.
Yep.
That, can I bring up a couple quick things that I noticed? I'm trying to tighten it up so we don't get into problems if this stuff goes out to the public and gets voted on.
Yeah,
that okay?
now's the time.
Okay. In section 7-1-C, I just think we should put in notify council leadership instead of council president. That way everybody
I
gets.
just want to make sure I'm following along.
7-1, what? C.
C.
C's in Charlie?
Yeah. It says at the direction of the council president. I'm just putting that notify the council leadership. It should be inclusive that we are notifying no matter whether you're a majority or minority.
I don't know, 7-1.C.
Or 71C. I'm sorry. Is it 71? Did I write my? I got it.
Appointments?
7-1C is.
Oh, you're
71.
looking at I. You're looking at the.
I'm sorry.
Applicant
All right.
pool for boards and commissions?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, yeah,
Okay.
sorry.
Yeah, all right.
My
If we
bad.
can change that other section. So
Oh, no.
notify.
Notify the council president.
Yeah. And where's, okay.
Instead of notify the council president, notify council leadership.
What is council leadership? Majority leader, minority leader?
Yep,
And
yes,
president?
sir.
All right.
Okay.
Let me see where that is. Okay, so the council president, majority and minority leaders. Correct? Is that all right?
Yes.
All right. Is everybody all right with that?
Yes.
Yes.
Section 74-2.
7A4.
Yes, it's appointment, term of office, approval, qualification, political balance. The question I have here is, you're appointed for a 4-year term. What
This is
happens
for
if
the
somebody?
BET, right? Yeah.
If somebody resigns in a term, it's not clear here whether or not you serve out the rest of the original 4-year term, or do you get a 4-year term from that point?
No, there's another provision in the charter that if you're appointed in the middle of the term, you complete the term of
Yeah.
office.
Yes.
The terms
Okay.
are set. If somebody leaves, you're filling the remainder of their term. It doesn't need to be repeated in
Right.
each section. It's in the beginning of each section.
All right, and another point of this, I think I meant to make before. Is there any reason that those appointments couldn't be handled before the first day in February, just because of the new timelines now and all that?
The
Council
mayor
has
comes
a-
in the beginning of January. That's why the date was switched to February. So the mayor has a chance to appoint.
All right, but I got that, but if the mayor appoints them on the first meeting of the council, the mayor. They're still gonna wait February 1st? I think we had this discussion, but maybe wrong.
You did.
Yeah.
It just seems it's late, considering the timelines in the budget, it's late in the budget process. Okay.
This is the day, I think the
Yeah,
commission had this
we
debate.
I think
and-
we had consensus on that,
Yeah.
Earlier, Doug.
Yeah, I know,
Appreciate
I'm
concern
sorry.
for it, but I think we already kind of.
The memory came back to me.
I got it. I hear you.
Section 104. Public Works.
What, which, I'm sorry, Doug, which 1-4? What chapter are you in? What article rather?
It's the Public Works, what they're required to do with, I think it's 104.
Oh, Public Works. 8.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right, got it. Okay,
I'll tell you in a second.
Page 104?
Yeah, it's page.
no,
Yeah.
Noida Charter City 104, and it's the one that's highlighted in,
It's on page
I'll call it-
110, 111.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
this is the ones that they're cleaning up the language. On section C, they do not include the Yardway site.
What site?
Yard site.
Yard waste,
Yard
talk about
waste.
wastewater system, the transfer station, yada, yada, yada. They don't include the transfer site, the yard waste site.
Okay.
Actually, I only left this in, is that something that's in a tax district or?
No, it's in the middle.
No, that
No.
Why does it need to be in the charter? I was actually gonna do more serious surgery on this. I have no problem if that's an important thing to put it in.
Oh, okay, I don't
If
know.
you
I
have the
thought,
other
I
ones there,
thought-
Yeah, I guess.
What
All right.
page are we on?
This is page 110.
Thank you.
So what is the yard way?
The yard waste.
Yard waste.
site.
Yard waste.
Leaves,
Yard
trees,
waste
and
site.
bushes.
Trash. Is that its name?
Yeah, brush.
Yard-
I believe
Yeah,
that's
yard waste
the
site.
Yard waste site.
Yep,
The yard waste site.
Waste site.
yep.
Throw it in.
Yard waste.
Yeah, in fact, I was hoping to bring that down a little bit more, but it just was.
Well, if you have the other ones, then you have to. make
No,
sure.
it's,
It's not on the page.
if, unless there's objection.
I'll send you a picture.
Thank you, please.
All right.
I can't even find that.
It's in it's in the city's website too. Under section, I'm sorry, 99. Because I wasn't sure how you're treating these, but I'm looking at the duties of the purchasing agent. That's section 99. And there's very low thresholds here. And I thought at some point the city kind of did this by ordinance where they could change the rates.
Doug,
They're saying
Doug, I don't mean to interrupt.
What is section 99?
What section are we talking
I
about?
have no idea where we are.
99 duties of purchasing agent. It's under A.
It's not there.
Duties of purchasing.
It's back in the.
Yeah, duty of
It's
purchase.
eight.
Following the certification of control, the purchasing shall proceed to purchase the articles, commodity of things required, including those, blah, 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 blah. Provided that all purchases of $1,000 or more, purchasing agent shall obtain at least 2 competitive bids and $3,000, including 3 bids for over $3,000. And this is going into a charter.
Well, it's in the charter.
I know that. And then I'm saying that what I'm suggesting, that the fee, this be treated like a fee for everything else. And to go somewhere into a different, into the ordinance about
Wants to take it out.
the purchasing agent. So the dollar figures should be taken out of here and put into where they can be adjusted from time to time.
Right,
You know,
and let me just say, thank you. It's an excellent comment, Mr. Vice Chair. One that I share completely. But I was asked to leave this in. As I go through these processes, I asked for advice from the people who are working on it. And they wanted me to leave this in for the time being so that it's like a belt and suspenders provision. I think that this is dealt with by ordinance. I agree with you completely. And what I did in here, just for so you don't think I capitulate, because I'm not the kind of person who does, I put the language in here that the council can take a look at this section. And because this is one of the sections that was in the back, everybody remembers we had those sunset provisions at the back of the document, chapter 14. This is a leftover from that section. I wanted to get rid of it completely. I couldn't get the sign off on it, so I left the sunset language here, Mr. Vice Chair. So the council has the ability to look at this section and remove the section, because I think it's dealt with by ordinance with a sign off from the Corporation Council. So I agree with you completely, but I didn't make the changes in it because we didn't discuss them. And I wanted to take the section out, but I didn't want to make a unilateral judgment on that. Now, if you want to take it out, be my guest. It's what I wanted to do, but I did have language that treats it as sunset language, and the council can address it. I think it's duplicative of other standards that they have in the code of ordinances. And so we can either take it out now, or we can have the council do it in normal order, usual order.
It just seems like a lot of work for a department head to have to deal with something so low, to have to go out and get 2 bids on if you could buy in a couple drills.
I agree, and I don't think they use the section. Remember, this was in the back of the charter, it was a special act provision.
Well, maybe you can talk somebody into the meantime.
We have, I have, I've been dealing with it.
I'm
for
not gonna
several
make
months.
any official. thing. I
Happy to
just
take
wanted
it
to
out,
bring
if
it
ever-
up.
take it out, or happy to leave it to the council.
How does other feel?
Yeah, that's how I compromised.
Doug, are you okay with that? Leave it
Yeah.
to the council, that's okay.
Now, Mr. Chair, I'm gonna ask you one more indulgence here. I'm sorry, I know I do drive you crazy.
Not at all.
I'm gonna-
Thank you for paying as close attention to this as you did, Doug.
I just want to, I was take a little bit of umbrage tonight about, and I heard the last three meetings about, oh, we brought this stuff up earlier, about all the financial stuff. And I went back and to look at our issues of tracking chart after we had the meeting with the city council. And I'm sorry to do this to you, but it says, here are the points. Review the balance of power between the mayor and council as way of their interactions with the Board of Estimate and the Board of Education, especially with respect to the budget process. Elected officials, not appointed officials, to make final appropriation. And I remember we kind of talked about this a little like, well, that's a mouthful, what does that mean? All right. And the second one said, council should play a greater role in the creation of line items based upon budget requests through council subcommittees. Add the superintendent of schools and CFO of the school system to the list of participants in the initial joint public hearing. We did the 5-year program for capital budgets. Review the provision in light of current language with one, liner. I'm just saying there was nothing specific in the original request, and that's the only time that we ever got communicated this. I just wanted, or the.
No, it's a fair point, Doug, and, I think if we were to continue to meet, we could continue to, for another year, we could have productive discussions and less productive discussions, but, I think we've gotten to a point where I think we've tackled most of the stuff as expeditiously as we could. And, we appreciate the feedback, however and whenever we got it, so. If no one else has anything, is there anything else procedurally we could vote on? I believe we've done it throughout the course of the meeting, so now we'll just, the next step would be, we'll take a final vote on the 12th, which, we'll have a chance as soon as, I know you're working on it, probably tonight, tomorrow morning, Steve, we'll get a look at your updates. I know, I'm just assuming, I think your level of dedication, we'll see it as soon as we
You'll have
possibly
it, you'll have
can,
it very
and
soon.
then we'll have something to vote on.
I will have the budget stuff for you to look at.
May I ask one last question, just about the 12th?
Yes.
So at some point, we're going to have to decide, or I guess maybe recommend to the Common Council whether or not there should be many questions, 4, 5, 6, what the wording what we might suggest as wording.
I don't believe we have any say in
That's a
that.
council function.
Okay.
So that there's no, you don't have to burden yourself with that.
We're not
Okay.
involved in that.
All right. Thank you.
But to Commissioner Camacho's inquiry, what prevents this commission from simply offering a resolution with such a recommendation? Obviously, we don't have authority. Obviously,
Well, if we don't have-
council can do what it wants. Nonetheless, I think if there's a opinion held by the Charter Revision Commission, it's something that we should be entitled to share with the council.
Council hasn't asked for it. Council hasn't asked for it.
Yeah, to the extent to the extent anybody would like to do that as a private citizen, feel free. I'm not gonna coordinate any, recommendation from this commission as to what that's not.
It's not our explicit.
It's not our.
But, yeah.
So, all right, thank you, everybody. Is there a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion.
Thank you. All right.
Thank you.
Aye.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hey,